So, I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be...
This isn't the first time Ayesha Curry has publicly thrown shade at her NBA superstar husband. But this time, she might have gone too far, and rumors suggest she's ready to call it quits. It all began with what seemed like a harmless podcast appearance on Call Her Daddy, where Ayesha sat down with Alex Cooper for a candid talk about identity, marriage, and motherhood. Yet within hours, that so-called honesty exploded into one of the year's biggest celebrity firestorms. The internet, always hungry for drama, devoured every word, turning Ayesha from America's sweetheart basketball wife into the villain of her own love story. What exactly did she say that sparked such outrage? And how did a simple reflection unravel into chaos? The moment forced fans to question what happens when the life you carefully design, the marriage, the image, the dream, takes a turn you never saw coming. For Ayesha, those questions became painfully real. Since her early 20s, she'd built her world around family, faith, and fame. But beneath the perfection, cracks were forming. When she opened up on the podcast, it wasn't just celebrity gossip. It was a rare, unfiltered glimpse into a woman struggling to balance love, identity, and ambition while living in the shadow of one of basketball's biggest names. Nervously laughing at the start of the interview, Ayesha had no idea that her vulnerability would soon ignite an internet storm powerful enough to shake one of Hollywood's most admired marriages.
I don't get in trouble for the things that I say.
She joked playfully, unaware that within just 24 hours, her words would spark thousands of think pieces, memes, and heated comment wars. Moments later came the remark that would be wildly taken out of context, a confession millions heard, yet only a few.
I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl, and that's it.
Much deeper conversation became the internet's so-called evidence that Ayesha regretted marrying Steph, was exhausted by their relationship, and that divorce was just around the corner. But that wasn't what she said, not even close. The full interview revealed a woman reflecting on how love and circumstance had reshaped her life. She admitted that before meeting Steph, her focus was entirely on building her career, yet love redirected her path in ways she hadn't planned. To many who see her now, a mother of four, a thriving entrepreneur, and a picture-perfect NBA wife, her words seemed shocking, but what she shared echoed the reality of countless young women. Sometimes, the person you become is nothing like the one you imagined, and that transformation is rarely simple, beautiful, or free of struggle. Ayesha Curry's story began in Markham, Ontario, Canada, where she entered the entertainment industry at just 3 years old. While other kids spent afternoons at soccer practice or playing outside, Ayesha was already performing, shooting commercials, appearing in print ads, and acting on television. For her, acting wasn't a pastime. It was her identity, her purpose, and what she believed would shape her destiny. Everything shifted when her family relocated to North Carolina when she was 14. It was there, in a church youth group, that she met a charming boy every girl admired, Steph Curry. But contrary to what fairy tales suggest, their connection wasn't instant love. It was a quiet...
People that I met in the States, but just friends, obviously.
Their relationship was purely platonic. Ayesha had no interest in teenage crushes. She was ambitious, focused, and determined to make it big in Hollywood. After finishing high school a year early, she packed her bags and moved to Los Angeles to chase her acting dreams. Though she grew up in a strict household, her parents surprisingly supported her decision to pursue her ambitions in LA at just 17. But life in the city of dreams turned out to be both everything she had imagined and nothing she had expected. Her father covered her first month's rent. But reality quickly hit when she realized how expensive LA truly was. To survive, she juggled 3 jobs, serving frozen yogurt, working at Abercrombie & Fitch, and selling produce at farmers markets on weekends, all while auditioning for roles. Amid the grind, fate intervened when Steph Curry, then a college basketball player, reached out to her on Facebook while visiting Los Angeles for a camp. They decided to meet, and that simple reunion, a casual walk down Hollywood Boulevard, quietly changed the course of her life. Their early dating days were sweet, lighthearted, and innocent. They did touristy things together, pressed their hands into cement outside the Chinese theater, wandered to the Grove, grabbed chai lattes, and laughed their way through the streets of L.A. It was, as Ayesha would later describe, pure young love, simple and real. Neither of them could have imagined what lay ahead. Ayesha had no idea Stephen would become one of basketball's biggest superstars, and Stephen could have foreseen how fame would transform their lives. What makes their story even more striking is that Ayesha wasn't drawn to him for his athletic potential. She wasn't chasing an NBA dream. She fell for the person long before.
I loved him, and I'd never experienced anything else. I'd never felt any differently than
This crucial detail often gets lost amid public noise. Ayesha fell in love with Stephen the person, not Stephen the potential NBA legend. Coming from an arts-driven household, she grew up in a world where sports barely existed beyond the occasional mention of Doug Flutie playing for the Buffalo Bills. In fact, she genuinely believed she would be the one with a big career, while Stephen would end up coaching high school basketball. But as life often proves, destiny had other plans. After a period of long-distance dating, while Stephen finished college, their relationship quickly deepened. They got engaged in July 2010 and tied the knot on July 30th, 2011, when Ayesha was just 22. What makes this part of their story fascinating is the irony. Ayesha was never the girl who dreamed of marriage or white picket fences. She was the ambitious, independent one destined for Hollywood, not domestic life. So what changed? As she later reflected, love has a way of surprising us, revealing what we truly desire over what we once thought we wanted. Everyone around them was thrilled and supportive, urging them to take the leap, and they did. At 22, full of optimism and love, Ayesha married Stephen and prepared for what she imagined would be a shared adventure filled with passion and partnership. What she couldn't foresee, however, was how swiftly her world would be upended. Just 3 months after the wedding, she discovered she was pregnant, a revelation that would completely alter the direction of her life. Overnight, the young woman who once dreamed of red carpets and movie sets was facing an entirely new reality, one defined by family, sacrifice, and a future that no longer resembled
turn one. I remember there being a shift and being I have goals for myself. This doesn't feel right. I love being a mom, but I love doing other things too, and I need to get my shit together.
For a moment. Ayesha was only 22, newly married, and just months removed from juggling 3 jobs in Los Angeles while chasing her acting dreams. She had never envisioned marriage, never planned for motherhood, and always saw herself as a fiercely independent career woman. Yet, only 3 months into marriage, she was unexpectedly pregnant and battling severe morning sickness. As she later admitted, "It was not on my bingo card." This marked the turning point where Ayesha's story became one that countless women could relate to. The struggle of reconciling who you thought you'd be with who you're becoming. What happens to a young woman's sense of self when her life suddenly shifts in a direction she never chose? When her ambitions fade into the background, replaced by responsibilities she wasn't ready for. When independence transforms into dependence, and her identity begins to blur. These were the questions that haunted Ayesha in the early years of her marriage. Questions that grew louder as Stephen's career skyrocketed to global fame. The spotlight intensified her inner conflict, and the identity crisis soon followed. After giving birth to their daughter, Riley, in 2012, Ayesha found herself living a reality millions of women know all too well. Try to balance being a mother while still figuring out who she was beyond that role. For the first year, her life revolved entirely around her baby. Sleepless nights, feedings, and endless exhaustion. Her own needs, ambitions, and dreams faded into the background as motherhood consumed her. Yet beneath the exhaustion, something began to shift. A quiet awareness that she was losing touch with the version of herself she once knew, sparking beginning a long, painful journey.
Right after my first was born, she was whiny, so I was like, let me just nurse her in the back seat. And Stefan was putting a bike or something in the trunk. And this woman opens the car door and she's sticking
a realization that motherhood, as beautiful and fulfilling as it can be, wasn't enough to define her entirely. Was something Ayesha Curry experienced deeply but hesitated to voice. just as countless women do. Society often dictates that once a woman becomes a mother, that role should be her ultimate source of purpose, satisfaction, and gratitude. But Ayesha wanted more. More than motherhood. More than being a wife. She craved a sense of self that had quietly faded away. Yet she wasn't even sure what more meant anymore. The acting career she had devoted her life to was no longer possible. The little girl who had started working at 3, the ambitious teen who moved to Los Angeles at 17 with stars in her eyes. That version of Ayesha now felt like a distant echo. Her identity crisis deepened as Steven's career soared beyond anything either of them imagined. When they married, she genuinely believed he'd become a high school basketball coach while she built her own career. Instead, he became one of the greatest players in NBA history, a global icon revolutionizing basketball, breaking records and commanding worldwide fame. And Ayesha, she became known as his wife, the mother of his children, the woman in the stands and beside him at red carpet events. It's a simple but powerful truth. The woman who had once worked tirelessly for her own dreams was now living within the orbit of someone else's success. Her independence, her ambitions, even her daily choices, where they live, when they travel, how they structured family life, all revolve around Steven's career. This wasn't about control. It was the unavoidable reality of being married to someone whose work consumes everything. And Ayesha, without ever intending to, found herself swept into that world. But the loss of her own identity was only half the struggle. The other half was the constant public scrutiny. Fame brought an unrelenting spotlight, one that sometimes turned invasive and cruel. She recalled one deeply unsettling moment when Riley was still a baby. She was sitting in her car, breastfeeding, believing she had a moment of privacy, when a stranger suddenly opened her car door and intruded on her space. Shocked, Ayesha confronted her, and the woman's chilling response, a sense of entitlement to her life simply because she was Stephen Curry's wife, shattered any illusion of normalcy Ayesha thought she had left.
If you lose, like for me being married and like with my husband, if you lose all of those things that were interesting about you, even for yourself, like even the things that made me feel confident and cool, then what are you doing? And so for me,
The truth is, Ayesha had no idea what she was signing up for. How could she? She married a man she believed would become a high school basketball coach. She fell in love with a person, not a brand, not a global superstar. Yet now she was being told that her privacy, her boundaries, even her right to feel safe in her own car with her baby, no longer belonged to her. All sacrifice of the fame her husband
one, I remember there being a shift and being like, I have goals for myself. Like, this doesn't feel right. I love being a mom, but I love doing other things too. And I need to get my shit together and figure out.
With intrusive fans. Social media in the early 2010s magnified it, turning Ayesha Curry's every move, choice, and appearance into public debate. One particularly cruel online trend compared her to SpongeBob's mom, a jab she laughs about now, admitting she did have a rounder face then. But imagine being a young mother battling postpartum insecurities, trying to rediscover your identity, while thousands of strangers mock your looks. It wasn't just a comment about her body either. The criticism extended to her role as Steven's wife. During one live television appearance, a reporter bluntly told her she just needed to sit there and look pretty. The implication was devastating. A woman who had worked professionally since she was 3, who had dreams, ambitions, and her own goals, being reduced to mere decoration beside her husband's fame. Professionally, the frustration deepened. When Ayesha began exploring the food and business world in her mid-20s, she encountered endless rejection. Executives dismissed her ideas with lines like, "You don't have a demographic," or "There's no space for you here." As a young black woman entering the culinary industry, she was told she was too inexperienced, too niche, and didn't fit the mold. Beneath those rejections lingered an unspoken bias. The assumption that any opportunity she received came not from her talent, but from being Stephen Curry's wife. That question, whether her success was earned or borrowed, haunted her career. Ayesha often highlighted the hypocrisy of how society treats ambitious women. Men are applauded for diversifying their interests, but when women try to be more than one thing, a mother, a wife, and a professional, they faced judgment. Critics would ask, why is she working when her husband earns millions? Why can't she just focus on her family? What is she trying to prove? This constant reduction of her identity to Stephen Curry's wife created a deep emotional toll, sparking an internal struggle that Ayesha continues to navigate today. The guilt she feels, the sense that pursuing her passion somehow takes away from her children, is something millions of working mothers face. But for Ayesha, that guilt is amplified by fame and wealth, by the perception that she doesn't need to work. Yet over time, she's realized a profound truth, that her fulfillment, her sense of purpose, and her example to her children depend on honoring her own dreams.
There's me, and honestly has given me a sense of a little bit of an insecurity, is the fact that, there are all these women throwing themselves, but me, the past 10 years, I don't have any of that. I have zero, this sounds weird, but male attention. And so then I begin to internalize it, and I'm is something wrong with
that maintaining her own identity wasn't selfish but essential, became the foundation for how Ayesha Curry learned to balance marriage, motherhood, and selfhood. She had to discover how to love her husband without losing herself, how to nurture her children while still chasing her own passions, and how to support Stephen's extraordinary career without being consumed by it. It was never easy, and it still isn't. But Ayesha found ways to rebuild who she was. Acting might have been out of reach, but she could pivot. She could channel her lifelong love of food, something she'd been passionate about since she began cooking for her family at age 11. With Stephen's encouragement, she launched a small food blog, and people quickly took notice. That blog led to cooking videos, culinary school in San Francisco, and eventually real opportunities, local cooking segments before Warriors games, cookbook deals, Food Network appearances, and eventually her own product lines and restaurants. She reinvented herself from scratch. Yet even as her career blossomed, the skepticism never disappeared. Critics questioned whether her success was her own or simply a byproduct of being Stephen Curry's wife. Would she have had the same opportunities without him? Maybe not. But does that make her achievements any less real? Absolutely not. Because opportunity and success are two very different things. Fame might open a door, but talent, effort, and persistence are what keep it open. Ayesha was the one who walked through those doors, proved herself, built a brand people admired, and created real value through skill and authenticity. Still, the shadow of Stephen's success lingered, not because he imposed it, but because that's how the world chose to see her. To many, she would always be Stephen Curry's wife first and Ayesha Curry second. And that ongoing perception set the stage for one of the most controversial moments of her public life. In May 2019, Ayesha appeared on Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith in an episode titled First Ladies of the NBA. Meet the Kayes, alongside her in-law Sonia Curry, Callie Rivers, Steph Curry's fiancée, and Siddle Curry Lee. The conversation focused on family, fame, and the challenges of being married to NBA stars. But amid the laughter and honesty, one candid comment from Ayesha would overshadow the entire episode, sparking a nationwide debate about marriage, womanhood, and the right of a wife to speak openly about her insecurity.
And I'd never experienced anything else. I'd never felt any differently than this is who I want to.
A feeling that many found even more controversial, saying, I don't want it, but it'd be nice to know that someone's looking. What followed was immediate and merciless backlash. Social media exploded with outrage, branding her ungrateful, attention-seeking, and disrespectful toward her marriage. Some accused her of craving male attention or desiring to cheat on Stephen, while others questioned why she would voice such thoughts publicly. The internet labeled her a pick-me, a derogatory term for women seeking male validation at the cost of their dignity. But lost in the noise was context, something crucial. Ayesha wasn't confessing infidelity or longing for external approval. She was articulating a raw, deeply human emotion, the insecurity that naturally arises when your partner is adored by millions while you feel unseen. Imagine her perspective. Everywhere they go, fans swarm Stephen. Women throw themselves at him. Strangers call out his name, and the spotlight constantly burns on him. In those moments, Ayesha becomes invisible, not as a wife or a woman, but as the obstacle between fans and their idol. Later, She clarified her remarks on Instagram, emphasizing that she was never seeking validation from other men, but speaking her truth. "I've never been one to cage my feelings or emotions," she wrote. "I am human." Her intention, she explained, was to help other women feel less isolated in their insecurities. "If what I'm not afraid to say out loud about being a 30-year-old mom of 3 helps another woman like me feel like she's not alone, then it's all worth it." Steph Curry publicly stood by her, posting, "Proud of you for being authentic and putting yourself out there, not being afraid of potential bullshit *T that could and did come at you. Way more positive than negative in all of this. Keep being you. I love you." Even Jada Pinkett Smith defended Ayesha, praising her vulnerability and saying not everyone is ready for that level of honesty. Still, the controversy refused to die. In a 2023 interview with Insider, Ayesha revealed that the Red Table Talk episode was edited in a way that distorted her words. "It made me sound crazy," she admitted. "It's not what I said, and the context was weird. Yeah, I took that one personally." This revelation sparked a broader discussion about how media shapes narratives, particularly for women. How often are vulnerable moments twisted into viral sound bites for drama? How many celebrities have had their honesty turned into ammunition? Fast forward to August 2025, and Ayesha once again found herself in the eye of a storm after her appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast. This time, the uproar centered on her candid remarks about not initially wanting marriage or children, and believing Stephen would be a high school basketball coach rather than an NBA legend. Social media's response was split. Some accused her of being ungrateful or publicly undermining her marriage, while others empathized, recognizing her honesty as a reflection of how life can change in unpredictable ways. The Breakfast Club weighed in, debating whether she was being disrespectful or refreshingly real. But online, nuance vanished. Even harmless humor became fodder for criticism. In 2023, a 2019 clip resurfaced from the reel, where Ayesha jokingly pretended to remove her wedding ring when a shirtless waiter appeared. It was a lighthearted, scripted moment that drew laughter at the time. Yet years later, viewers labeled her disrespectful, claiming she mocked fidelity. Some commenters went as far as writing, "Marriage vows aren't a joke." Once again, Stephen responded with unwavering support, commenting on her Instagram, "My woman and my rooster." Then came the rumor mill. In January 2022, a gossip page claimed an unnamed NBA couple had an open marriage, and internet speculation immediately targeted the Kais. Ayesha quickly shut it down, replying, "Don't believe everything you read. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Don't disrespect my marriage like that, please, and thank you." What becomes clear through all of this is a relentless scrutiny women in the public eye face, especially those married to famous men. Every word, laugh, and facial expression is dissected and often weaponized. But beneath the noise lies something remarkable. Ayesha and Stephen Curry's bond has endured the chaos. They renewed their vows in September 2021, celebrating a decade of marriage in a backyard ceremony officiated by their daughter Riley. They welcomed their fourth child, Kais Chai, in May 2024. Together, they built thriving careers, Stephen dominating the NBA and Ayesha flourishing as a culinary entrepreneur, television host, and author, all while raising a family and maintaining a grounded partnership. Despite the criticism, Ayesha has continued to evolve, turning vulnerability into strength. Her journey is not one of perfection, but of resilience, growth, and balance. She learned that identity within marriage doesn't mean erasing yourself, but redefining how you exist beside someone extraordinary. She transformed her childhood love for cooking into a career, from a small blog to a Food Network personality, from local TV segments to best-selling cookbooks, and from home recipes to successful restaurant ventures. Every step of that evolution came with doubts, backlash, and the weight of comparison, yet she persisted. And while some might claim her fame came through Stephen, her success undeniably came through her own effort. Opportunity opens doors. It doesn't walk through them. Ayesha built something real: talent, credibility, and connection. Still, the world insists on defining her through her husband's shadow, not because Stephen casts it, but because society does. Her story mirrors a universal struggle: balancing individuality with partnership, ambition with love, and public life with private identity. The most powerful takeaway from Ayesha's journey is simple yet profound. Life rarely follows the path you planned. The career you dreamed might never unfold the way you imagined. The independence you valued might merge into shared growth. The relationship you never expected might become the foundation of your entire world. And that's not failure, it's transformation. Ayesha Curry's story isn't about controversy. It's about evolution, authenticity, and the courage to stay true to yourself even when the world misinterprets your truth. So when you think of her not as Stephen Curry's wife, but as a woman navigating fame, motherhood, and selfhood with grace, remember this: vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a bridge that connects us all. And as Ayesha continues to evolve, her journey reminds us that growth doesn't require perfection, only persistence, honesty, and the courage to keep showing up no matter how loud the noise becomes.